And that's really why we named it IT roadmap. And I'll show you what one of them looks like and what you can do with this piece of product. So you can multi-select or you can select just one of them. All 9 services have different things to play with inside. They all look and feel the same, but there's different attributes. Again, just a high level recap on what IT roadmap is about. It really is for you to create a service. You go in and you look at what are the attributes that you need to enable in order for you to level up? I'm doing air quotes on level up, sort of as the gamification process. There's level 1 through level 4. Level 1 is the most basic, if you will. Most companies nowadays are not level 1 anymore. Conversely, level 4 is your most technically advanced gurus out there, organizations-wise. Again, most customers that we see are not in level 4. Most of them are in level 2, and then some in level 3. So let me go in and show you what that looks like. I selected Shared Services, Identity, Security, and Compliance. And once you go in, you're going to see a few things here. So again, the service assessment is going to be Identity, Security, and Compliance. The default audience is going to be IT admin, and very quickly you will see why. There's also other roles that if you want to engage with, but we put a default on the IT admin. Within the service of identity, security, and compliance, there's 4 different tabs that you can play with. Each tab has its own unique features and unique attributes. So let's just go through one of them first, access management. Right now, you can see, if you scroll down, you can see there's level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you're looking to advance your organization to level 3, then there are attributes that will light up then at that point to say, hey, what you need to do in order for you to get access management within this broader service of access compliance to level 3. So these 5 are the things that you need to make sure that you have and you enable. Now, not all services or attributes will be applicable to the customer. So you can always click on one of them to make it green. That means check mark, you've done that part, right? Leaving the other 4 needing for you to go. But maybe this one doesn't apply to the customer. So you can click on that again, and that makes it not applicable. The reason you want to do all this is whatever is left in red, if you scroll down to the bottom, it's going to give you the list of action items that you need to do. Very, very clear cut. So for example, enable Azure AD multi-factor authentication. It will literally go through step by step, and it will take you to TechNet, a bunch of different content that we've already created so that you don't have to go find how to do multi-factor authentication. You can do setup 2-step verification for Office 365, right? All of these then become links that you can then send to the customer and say, these are the things that you need to do in order for you to achieve level 3. And again, if you were to open up every single one of them, you were going to see 3 things. So depending on how many red marks, that is what we mean by gamification, right? So everybody sort of in this world kind of want to be level 3, level 4, right? You want to up level yourself, and that is how we think about it. Now, what you need to do is also start to go through identity management to say, hey, if you're going to be level 3, these are also the things that you need to go do. And maybe you've already done all of them, and that's fine. You're going to see this thing turn green, go to governance, and maybe you haven't done anything within governance. And maybe in compliance, you've done maybe just 2 of them, right? So now it's going to generate a list of all of the attributes that you need to go through as an IT admin to enable in order for you to be a level 3 within this identity, security, and compliance. What you can do is scroll down to the bottom and click on Assessment Summary. Once you click on Assessment Summary, it's going to give you a full summary view of everything that you need to go do. So for example, right now, you're in level 1. And your goal is to get to level 3. Now, how do you get to level 3? So these are all of the things you need to go and enable. You can scroll all the way down and see all of the things that you need to think about in order for you to achieve level 3 when it comes to this specific service, right? You can also view your IT roadmap, and it's going to give you a file that you can download. It's going to be a Word document that you can download and send to the customer. The beautiful thing about this Word file is every single link that you saw that was lit up by the attributes, those are hot links. So they don't go away. So when you send it to the customers, they can continue to use it, and they can literally click on the links within the system and be able to take them to whatever document it is that they need to go look at in order for them to enable that attribute. You can download this piece of work right here. It's going to give you everything. It is a pretty long file, depending on how many attributes that you still need to go do. But you can see these are all links that you can actually click on, right? So, and again, once you download it, send it to the customer. And those are the things that you can then do to say, hey, for this specific service, these are the attributes that you need to go and enable. And then there's, of course, nice services all up that you can play around with. So hopefully, very quickly, you see this is a very IT-focused conversation. All of the terminology that we use here are fairly IT-driven. So this is typically what we say, using at least with internally, this is a TSP, technical sales professional conversation with the IT admins or IT pros within the customer's organization. I would not be using this with the BDMs. They will kick you out, and you could try, but they would likely kick you out. But this is much more of that technically driven audience that, in terms of what does Microsoft offer for you to think about when it comes to these 9 different services, and what are some of the attributes that you need to go and enable for that. Any questions? This definitely is a little bit more straightforward in terms of what you need to do, how you go about doing it. Typically, the question when people start using it is more on the UI itself, and we're optimizing for that process right now in terms of usability. People have questions around how to use the tool because it can be a little bit confusing. Yes?
Can these be ticked off by the client as well as yourself?
The what? I'm sorry.
Sorry, the tick boxes on the next things to do, can they be ticked off by the client that's using it as well as yourselves?
They can only be ticked off on using your device. So whoever's logged in, typically it's you, right? You're going through this process with the customer.
Okay, that might be something that you might want to look into. So, like in future, if it's if they want to feel like it's their process, you want to make them feel like they can tick off the bits as they go along as well.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Any other question on IT roadmap? Is there?
When it comes to the roadmap, at the back of your mind, you're always thinking you expect to see something visual in terms of timelines and everything else. Is that included here? Not timelines. It's I can see where the confusion is. I didn't actually think about it that way. When we say roadmap, obviously it's more meant to, now that you've seen it, it's meant to be, how do you get from level 1, level 2, level 3. Less on a timeline standpoint, what are the things that are coming out. That could be a confusing terminology though. It's more of a maturity process rather than an IT roadmap. Maturity process could be, yeah, it could be a maturity process. This is something that we started to play around with back in, Ignite. After Ignite, we decided to launch this, and Ignite was, it's a Microsoft event, and typically it happens in September, end of September timeframe. And so about 4 or 5 months ago, we started to think about, well, we need some tool for our IT audience, and this really is sort of the evolution of that. But I agree with you. I think IT roadmap may sound a little bit. It may be a maturity model, so it might be a naming thing that we need to go and change. I'll take that in my back pocket and steal that idea and say, yeah, maybe I should call it this way.
It reminds me of the Gartner maturity model that used to exist about 3 to 4 years ago.
Yep. I mean, we rinse and repeat a lot of things, and we recycle a lot of things that we find that are interesting and that are that may be beneficial, right? And hopefully we, of course, take it to the next level, and hopefully we make it a little bit better as well. What other questions? Yes. I can repeat.
How does the customer know which level they want to get to? Like you said, that person wants to get to level 3. Why don't they always strive to get to level 4? Why doesn't everyone strive to get to level 4 in everything?
You can that is when you, as a facilitator doing this, need to sort of slow them down and take them step by step, right? If obviously when you're engaging with the customer and they're already advanced, and based on your knowledge of the customer, then sure, maybe they can get to level 4, but most of them are not. So you need to kind of rein them back a little bit and say, Well, let's take it step by step. Right now, I think I see you as a level 2. Do you agree? These are the things that you need to enable for level 2. And let's look at level 3 for now and see what you need to do in terms of capabilities. Currently, your company doesn't even have some of these things, so we need to even think about how do we deploy some of these products in order for you to enable these, right, before we get to level 4. So part of that is the facilitator's job to go and make sure that we rein the customer in. Obviously, everybody wants to be level 4. But majority of the time, you simply don't get to level 4, quite honestly. Microsoft, anyways, yeah. Yes? It's a game.
I was just thinking from a BDM point of view, it would be nice to see this aligned with the scenarios. So
Yeah.
if you were looking at, if you're going through that process of aligning a business with their scenarios.
With the scenarios, yep.
I would like to see this, almost join up to that.
You can
So say,
actually see
how,
that.
How do we actually physically continue the conversation with the IT department
You bet.
to realize those scenarios that we've been discussing with
That is a great point. So we realized when we first launched it, it was a standalone tool by itself. But very quickly we realized in order for us to really create a synergy between the two, business scenarios, we need to drive it with the IT roadmap. Conversely, IT roadmap needs to be driven with the scenarios as well. We actually are creating that process, and you should see that very soon. I'm very, very excited to announce that. That is something that we know is a gap, because right now we're treating these two different audiences very, very separately. But perhaps that once you create the synergy, you can actually drive a much more holistic conversation with the organization, with the customer.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen. That will happen.
The IT will be sat in the same room with the business decision makers, and if they're surrounding their scenario around the context, the same context, delivering the same
Exactly,
context,
and that will definitely happen.
better.
That's going to happen. Yeah, we're mapping all of the 18 business scenarios to these nice services. There's going to be some overlaps, I suspect, but we're absolutely doing that. That's a great point. Any other questions? Let me go back to my PowerPoint slide real fast, just so that we anchor kind of on a summary of everything that we've talked about. So I'll go into this slide, right? So today I think I spent the majority of my time always talking about Value Discovery Workshop. For fairly obvious reasons, most people don't, including Microsoft, we don't know how to have that BDM conversation. So I typically spend a little bit more time really going deep and through what Value Discovery Workshop is, why we created Value Discovery Workshop, how do you drive that conversation. The rest of the materials that you saw today, chances are some of you may already have that, right? Obviously, a lot of you have already expressed customer immersion experience, you use demo. And that's perfectly fine. We talked about some of the differences between the two. Value calculator, some of you did not when I asked, do you have some sort of a calculator within your organization? Which is great. And if you find yourself wanting to use our tool, that's also fine. You can come in and use it today if you want to. And then last but not least, we talked about just now IT roadmap, which is much more of an IT conversation. But again, to your point, how do you drive IT roadmap with the rest of the BDM conversation? That's definitely coming as well. I guess what I would say is we're seeing a lot of benefits, and hopefully you saw some value in today's session as well in terms of why we go about thinking so much into this BDM conversation. We really do believe there's a significant value that we can go and chase after. Within our own, I went through some of the data and stats, I won't go through it again, but we're seeing an upside in people who use business value program versus not. And what we're seeing right now is there's still so much space out there that we can go do these business value programs with. And we're constantly encouraging all of our sellers to go and identify places where you think business value program can play a big role in terms of unblocking your deals and accelerating that velocity of the deal. And it really does work when you start to play around with it. you're gonna see the power of what the contents that we have within Business Value Program with regards to BDMs. There is going to be a channel of how we collect all of the feedback. I would love to hear from you directly later on to see, hey, how has it been successful? Or is there blockers, right? So you marinate on the things that you've heard today. When you go back, you may think of something else that says, hey, this doesn't make sense. I would love to hear about it because that's how we grow and that's how we change.